good afternoon, everyone. We're fast coming to an era where we will be celebrating our DNA age and not our birth age. Our birthdays will mean we get younger and not older. Imagine that. I have with me the handsome, miracle, almost 54-year-old doctor from Harvard Medical School who specialized in molecular genetics. He promises no aging, no wrinkles, no disease, and possibly choosing your own death date. Author of Lifespan and professor of genetics. Welcome. There are many beautiful people here today in the audience, but everyone likes a few tips, right? So, first of all, can you explain to the audience here what is the basic theory of reversing aging and bioswitches?
Well, thank you, Kali. Thank you for having me today. So the science of aging and aging reversal has come a long way in the past 20 years. When I started at Harvard Medical School, it was considered crazy to try and slow down aging, let alone reverse it. But the science is now at a point where we really do understand what drives aging, and also that there's a backup copy of youth in every one of our many trillions of cells that we've just recently learned how to access and reboot the body like you would reboot an old computer and reinstate the youthfulness of tissues and organs and make them work again like they were young. And this is only a few years old now, but the technology is far beyond what I thought I would see in my lifetime, and it's only getting faster in its development.
So can you explain the basic theory, which is about keeping the body under a state of constant stress to activate the longevity genes? How does that work?
Yeah, you mentioned the bioswitches. What we discovered in my lab and in many labs around the world that there are genes that control how long we live. Some of us are born with the best versions of those genes, and those people tend to live over 100. Those with parents, like the Prime Minister that lived over 100, tend to live also for a long time. But most of us are not born with the perfect set of genes, so we need to do a little extra. And what we've discovered is that how we live our life, what we eat, how much we move, the type of molecules that we ingest every day, how we sleep, how relaxed we are, how many friends we have, this modifies another type of system in the body that's called the epigenome. The epigenome is different from the genome. I think you all know that the genome is the DNA that we get from our parents. The epigenome is what controls the DNA that tells a brain cell to be different from a liver cell, from a toenail producing cell. And over time, we lose those instructions. The epigenetic instructions become lost. And what we've found is that by living a healthy life, the kind of life that we'll talk about later, you can slow that rate of aging and prevent this corruption of the body's software and even reboot it.
So can we talk a little bit about this style of living? What are the things that we can do to slow that aging process down and activate these genes?
Yeah, well, there's some good and bad news. The good news is that aging is much easier to slow and reverse than we thought. The bad news is that what causes us to slow our aging process is to give our bodies a bit of a shock. In today's lifestyle, most of us have an abundance. Many of us, we have enough food, and we don't need to exercise. That's not the way we used to live, and it's not the way our bodies perform the best. By sitting for most of our lives and eating almost constantly, 3 meals a day for many of us, we end up turning off these body switches, and the body ages faster and faster. So we've built a world that's very comfortable, but the backlash is that we age faster. So what we've discovered in my lab, in studies in yeast cells that make bread and beer, in worms and flies and mice and monkeys and now humans, is that we want to put our bodies into a state of adversity, make the body feel a little bit uncomfortable. So how do we do that? Well, we can skip meals. we can exercise, we can eat food that is plucked from the ground when it's also stressed, because they have wonderful chemicals in them that make us healthier. And we can also get enough rest and calm down the sleep that leads to inflammation and other things like that. So really you want to make your body fearful of running out of food, or fearful that you're having to run away from a tiger. And that turns on the body's defenses against aging, we've learned. But that doesn't reverse aging so much. That requires a little bit more attention, which we've only recently figured out how to control.
So this business about skipping meals, just as we are having a session before lunch, can we talk a little bit about skipping meals? What do you recommend as a diet for slowing down the aging process?
There is a set of genes that I wrote about in my book, Lifespan, that's called the sirtuins. And they get turned on when there's not enough energy in the body. So if you don't have a lot of sugar in your bloodstream or a lot of protein, they will get turned on. And they defend the body against the damage that causes the aging process. And so what I've, over time, learned to do is to skip meals. I'm not always successful. Sometimes I have breakfast in beautiful places. But my goal is to not eat a large meal until dinner. And then I eat a very healthy vegan meal and very rarely alcohol. And this diet that I have gone on to for now about 18 months, my partner, Serena Poon, who's a nutritionist and a longevity expert as well, moved me from what I thought was a healthy diet, Mediterranean diet, with some red wine and cheese. I went completely to almost completely to plants. And my body has responded. I look better. I think my skin is better. I feel better. My memory is certainly better. But I think it's not just what you eat, it's also when you eat. And this constant eating, 3 meals a day plus snacks, is making us age faster than we need to.
So are you recommending intermittent fasting?
Well, the way we put it, Serena and I, is you want to eat within a certain window. And so I like to eat within a period of about 6 hours a day and not more. I can snack. Some snacks might be some sugar-free chocolate or some nuts or some avocado. It's not a crime to eat if you're a little bit hungry, but don't eat a big meal if you can until either late at night or have it in the morning, because you want to have a period where your body is not ingesting food, and it will turn on its defenses against disease and aging.
See, can you talk a little bit about the fact when you went almost 20 hours without eating, and you did that for a period of time?
Yeah, so 20 hours is a long time to go without food every day, but your body gets used to it. I found that after 2 weeks of doing that, I was not hungry anymore. If I felt a little bit hungry, I would drink a lot of tea. Serena and I have green tea matcha, which is filled with all these wonderful chemicals from stress plants. And drink a lot of water and tea. I think here in India, we know how to do that. And that is the solution. And we often think, oh, we need to feed the body the sugar, that, have a dessert, have some lollies. But really, your body can make its own sugar. Your liver makes sugar. You just need to wait 2 weeks for it to get used to it. Our liver is pretty lazy. But after 2 weeks, it learns, in the morning I have to make some sugar. And what I found is that my liver making sugar is a lot smarter than my eyes and my mouth eating sugar. Because when we eat 3 meals, our sugar goes up and down, and we get lots of energy, then we crash and we get brain fog, and then we eat again and we're hungry, and you go like this through the day. When you don't eat until dinner, you're steady with your sugar because your liver knows what to do, and you can focus and just have a lot of energy.
So 1 meal a day, you would recommend that? And what would you recommend in that 1 meal?
Yeah, well, try to at least skip 1 meal a day. That would be my recommendation. And if you can do 2, even better. Some people go without food for 3 days. I've never been able to do that. I like food. But what's in the food? Well, as I mentioned, I went from drinking a lot of red wine because red wine actually, the component of red wine, resveratrol, was discovered in my lab to slow aging. So I thought, drink a lot of red wine, that's got to be healthy. But the new research just over the last 2 years says that drinking alcohol every day is really not good for you. So I've cut out alcohol, and I've focused on plants. So This vegan diet has no dairy, which is very difficult here in India.
Yes.
But we do that. We substitute milk with coconut and nut-based milks and yogurts. They taste very good as well. And then so a typical dinner would be, well, plant-based meals that taste just or even better than what I used to eat. And I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. And you might ask, well, why would you do that? Well, there's a lot of science behind it. The protein that's in plants has a ratio of amino acids that stimulates these longevity genes, the sirtuins, and another one called mTOR. And if you always eat meat every meal, your body's just not fighting aging the way it could if you ate more plants.
So you are against meat in that sense?
Well, I love meat. I would love to eat meat. It tastes really good. It's just the science says plants give you better bang for the buck for longevity than meat. I mean, you can eat meat occasionally. Fish, for example, has a lot of great omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm not against meat. I just think try to focus more on plants if you can.
You said something about stressed vegetables. Can you talk a little bit about that? What is that versus, normal organic vegetables?
Yeah, so when farmers grow vegetables, they try to grow them as fast as possible. It's much more economical. The problem with that is that giving plants a lot of sunlight and water and fertilizer makes them very happy. And as I just told you, a happy organism is not a healthy organism. So when plants have a little bit of stress, so a little bit of lack of water, or there's a little bit of a caterpillar on there, or even not a lot of sun, in the case of green tea matcha, they put the plants in the shade, then those plants respond in a stress response. They turn on the production of chemicals called polyphenols. Resveratrol from red wine is a polyphenol that's produced when the plants get stressed. And it's my theory, which has a name, a terrible name, I apologize. It's called xenohormesis. Xeno means
I was
between
hoping
species.
you were not going to bring it up because of the terrible name.
Yeah, well, just remember, if your food is stressed, then you get the benefits. Stress your food so you don't have to. And so what we focus on, Serena and I, are plants that are full of color. Serena says eat the rainbow. So try to eat bright red and purple, dark green colored vegetables, because those are the ones that have these polyphenols that can turn on the body's defenses. And actually in my lab, if we give polyphenols to mice, they actually get healthier and run further like they've been exercising. So these little molecules, polyphenols, can actually not substitute, but can help you with your exercise and your otherwise healthy plant diet.
So in superstores, we're going to have inorganic, organic, and stressed vegetables now.
That's a great business plan. We should do that.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about sugar, because sugar is very addictive, and it's a real pick-me-up. So is there a healthy way to have sugar?
Depends on the sugar. If you're talking about cane sugar, sucrose, I would try to limit that as much as possible, unfortunately. I gave up eating desserts in my 40s, though I do steal it from people at the table. So Serena orders the desserts for me. But really, sugar is something that is known to be toxic in the long run. It's sucrose, which forms glucose, will attach to your body's components. Your proteins will become what's called glycated, and that's known to drive aging as well. So that's why we try to not eat too much, and so we don't want to eat a lot of sugar. But there are substitutes. There's, for example, monk fruit produces sugar, which Serena has told me to try, and it tastes just as good as sugar, and it doesn't give you that spike, and that should be good for longevity.
What about stevia, maple syrup, honey, coconut sugar?
They're all on a various scale. Honey is not so good in large amounts. Stevia, I think, is okay, but it's all on a scale. I think the best is allulose or monk fruit, and then a bit above that, a bit worse than that, is stevia. But at the bad end is glucose, sucrose, and honey. But honey has a lot of goodness in it, so I wouldn't say avoid honey, just don't eat too much of it.
How would you classify sugar in fruit? Like, would that be something you would try and replace desserts with? Like, at the end of a meal, would you just have a piece of fruit?
Yeah, for sure. Fruit is good. I would avoid fruit juices unless they're from fruits that don't have a lot of sugar, but oranges and apples and pineapple have a lot of sugar that I generally avoid.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your vitality pills. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the vitality pills and what we can do to make ourselves, eternally young and beautiful?
Yeah. So I've been taking supplements and experimenting on myself for about 20 years. And my father has also been doing it. He's now 83 and in perfect health. And what I learned through my research and through my own self-experimentation and then clinical trials in hospitals is that there's certain molecules mostly from plants that provide the benefits of fasting and exercise as well. And so I was taking these separately. I take a variety of them. Do you want me to go into which ones?
Yes, I mean, don't go into the details, but we would all like to know where these pills are available and what's in them. I'm sure everyone's thinking, where can I get the prescription?
All right. So if you don't have a pen, you can go to my book, and I wrote these chemicals, these supplements down in my book. In the English version, it's page 304. And there are three main things that I take and have taken for over a decade. The one chemical that I take every day is resveratrol, which is the red wine chemical, and that comes from grapes. And so that one gets sprinkled into some yogurt in the morning. I also take a molecule.
That's the one which red wine has, right? But it's the amount you take is equivalent to 750 glasses of red wine per day.
I don't recommend getting it from red wine. So the other molecule is called NMN, not to be confused with M&Ms. Don't mix those up. NMN is a version of vitamin B3 that makes a chemical in the body that we need for life, and that's called NAD. And as we get older, we make less and less of this. And without NAD, these sirtuins that we discovered, slow aging, remember the genes that we discovered? Mm-hmm. They don't work without a lot of NAD. So as we get older, our defenses decline. And so by taking this supplement, we know that it doubles the levels of NAD back to when I was age 20. And there's now clinical trials that my colleagues at Harvard have done that says that NMN has some health benefits in early studies, such as lowering cholesterol and blood pressure. And so I take that one every day as well. I take a half a gram of that currently. And then the third one is metformin. Metformin is a little bit more controversial because it's a drug. And it's just classified as a drug. And that doesn't mean it's necessarily dangerous. In fact, it's one of the world's safest drugs. It's used for type 2 diabetes to control blood sugar. And what's been found is that people who take metformin tend to live a lot longer. Even those who don't have type 2 diabetes, there's evidence that they are protected against cardiovascular disease and frailty and even Alzheimer's disease. And so what I do is I take metformin even though I don't yet have type 2 diabetes.
So metformin, is it a form of this GLP-1 receptor blockers, the skinny pen, Ozempic, which all of Hollywood is apparently on? And they're getting thinner and thinner if you see the red carpet at Oscars. Is that what it is? A form of that?
Well, no, it's actually very different. Metformin will activate your body's energy production and boost mitochondria, which are the little energy packs in your cells. So that's a healthy way to do it. I won't say the brand name, but yeah, these GLP-1 agonists are causing your body to become more insulin sensitive and take up the sugar from your blood and burn fat. And people who take this drug, they do lose weight. So the drug is designed to treat type 2 diabetes, and it's actually a blockbuster, very effective drug. One of my colleagues over in New York, Nir Barzilai, says that in his practice, he essentially now thinks of type 2 diabetes as a curable disease, only in the last few years because of these new drugs. But people who don't have obesity or diabetes are taking it, or they might have obesity, but they certainly don't have type 2 diabetes and they lose weight. The one negative side effect that everyone should be aware of is that people can lose too much fat in the wrong place, including in the face, where you don't want to lose it, especially if you're older. And you can tell if somebody's taking this medicine because they start to look far
It's called
too
the
thin.
brand name face, right? I'm not taking the brand name either, but that's what it's called.
Yeah, it is. So you have to be very careful. I would say it's much better to eat less often and exercise, and you'll get much bigger health benefits than taking that drug.
Let's talk a little bit about exercise. What kind of exercise are you recommending? Like a lot of interval training, running, strength, yoga?
Yeah, well, yoga is very important, I think, here
Are you
being
just
in
saying
India.
that because Serena is sitting opposite us, or?
Yeah, Serena's down there, below the stage here. So Serena is the equivalent of me with more of a practice and knowledge about yoga and nutrition and mind and body, and I'm Mr. Biology and Chemicals. But together we do recommend a lot of stretching and yoga, meditation to reduce stress, though I'm not good at it. And I'm also not good at exercise. I'm often on planes. Serena and I have been traveling for 2 months now, so we don't get a lot of exercise in. That said, I used to, and what I used to do was to exercise 3 times a week and lose my breath. You want to be able to be moving so fast that you cannot carry out a conversation easily. That's when you know you're becoming hypoxic, low in oxygen. And this low oxygen, we think, is a very good stimulator of this stress on the body, and your body responds in a positive way to build muscle, get better blood flow, and also your tissues will put out chemicals that slow aging. So really, if you can just lose your breath for 10 minutes, 3 times a week, that can give remarkable health benefits, lowering the rates of disease by 30%. So a little bit goes a long way.
Can we get a mic to Serena? So Serena is a proponent of yoga, and I want to know what she thinks about that, because in yoga you don't necessarily stress the body to a point where you lose your breath or you get out of breath.
That's true. There's different types of yoga, of course, especially in the US. I'm based in LA. There's yoga that is used more as a form of exercise, and that can be quite stressful on the body. I think we stress our bodies in a slightly different way when it comes to yoga, because we're really stressing our mind. You know, it's really about how long you can hold still, how you can clear your mind, how you can hold a pose. That's stress in a different way. It's really more stress on the mind, whereas Dave is talking about the stresses on the body, but effectually it will still have the same results. So, and David can share about that. So we're looking for that balance in a way where we're balancing our body, but there is a stress to our mind, and getting to that stress point is then where we find balance.
So you two are from two opposite ends of the spectrum, in a way. You're more from a Western school of thought. She's more from an Eastern school of thought. Mm-hmm. What are the things that you guys agree on over the dinner table, and what are the things that you don't agree on?
Yeah, people wonder, how do we get along? Because
opposites attract.
I do
I'm
too.
100% reality, and Serena's very spiritual. But we bonded over our love for health and wellness and respect for the human body. We both believe that we can help millions, if not billions, of people live healthier, longer lives with our message that covers both Eastern and Western. What do we agree on? We agree on nutrition, basically because I do whatever Serena tells me to do. But what we disagree on are things like how important is the spiritual side of life. I struggle trying to believe in things that I have no evidence for, and Serena has a lot of faith, and she's always right, so I think she's onto something. We tend not to disagree on a lot of things. I think our interpretation of how it's working is different. I will say, oh, well, it's this molecule hits this molecule, and she says, no, it's that the body has different energies, and it's working this way, and according to Ayurvedic practices, this is how it's working. It really is, it's a wonderful combination, the two of us, because we learn from each other, and often we end up with an explanation for phenomena that includes both old and new science.
Well, I'd say we differ a little bit when it comes to meditation. That's a core practice that David sort of dabbles in a little bit.
Dabbles in means what, like 2 minutes a day or?
I don't know, honey, how much do you meditate a day?
Well, my problem is I try to meditate and I always fall asleep and I start snoring. So I'm not good at meditation. What I found instead works for me is to have quiet time, we call it.
Yes.
I close my eyes for 11 minutes, hopefully at least twice a day, and have some gratitude during that quiet time, or listen to someone talking about stoicism. That's what I like to do. I struggle with meditation, I will admit, with my crazy lifestyle and my lack of commitment to that. I haven't been successful really, but I really should be, because the benefits on controlling your mind have been proven. I like to talk about animal studies. So in mice, if you modify the mind of mice, so you can change parts of the brain of a mouse, you can actually improve immunity, improve health, even make the mice live longer just by changing parts of the brain. It's very clear that if you can control your mind, calm it down, get it to focus, have the positivity as well, you can have whole body benefits that are often misunderstood by Western medicine.
So with some of the things that you're suggesting, which are not, by the way, easy, going 20 hours without food or, giving up sugar.
Well, that's where we
and
differ too.
You differ there. What is it that?
Well, I'm more about eating within a window, which David shared, that we talk about eating windows. So which may mean more than one meal a day. So you can fast for 12 hours, or 14 or 16 or 18, or David can go to 20. But it's really about making sure you get the nutrients that you need for your body during that window of time that you do eat, my belief, more than trying to cram everything into one meal. So we differ just slightly on that as well.
So we have, there's a lot of pressure to look good. And nobody else has that pressure more than people who are in a public space. So we have few actors here who are coming in from a hit OTT show called The Class. You can see all the very brightly dressed, fashionable people right here up in front. I'd like to ask them, how tough is the pressure on you guys to look good? And what are the extreme things you've done?
I think it's huge. A lot of us had to de-age essentially for the character. And what you were saying about losing breath or being out of breath, I chanced upon accidentally, because while I was working out for the role, I was boxing like 4 times a week. And I found that I genuinely, like now when people ask me, they're like, oh, we can't guess your age. I can't believe you're so much less older than you.
She's not giving her age away.
Yeah, I was like, oops. No, but it genuinely, I feel like we kind of chanced upon a lot of the things you spoke about today, and they're all making sense now.
So David, I think, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you're gonna hate me for this, but I had fruits for like 2 years straight. I was on a fruitarianism diet. I don't know if you know, there's the Robert Moore's concept of raw vegan diet. So I was on that. And I still sort of follow it, not exactly because now I have temptations and I go and have something, whatever I need, but mostly I used to drink a lot of juice. And still in the morning I had like, I think, a liter of juice from the hotel itself, and they were like, why are you just drinking? You have a drinking problem of juice. So yeah, so that was one thing with me. So I just wanted to know your views on one thing, if I may.
Please.
Most of the things that you said, and most of the things out there, everything revolves around one thing, and that is, firstly, separating your body from mucus, like the mucus we produce due to eating a lot of cooked foods. One thing that hasn't been resolved yet is the male pattern baldness, because even in in the fruit diet, nobody has actually given a solution to that. So
look at David's hair. Just look at David's hair.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was asking. Because
they
at
want
54,
the secret to this.
Yeah, at 54, I want this hair. Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, I think I'm lucky, but I also think that if you slow your body's aging, your hair will also slow down in its changes. I don't yet have much gray hair. I will admit my mother also had good hair, so it might be that. But there's a lot of really good science going on. In fact, Serena and I have co-developed a product that was developed for the skin in collaboration with NASA, and it has this space-resistant organism extract in it called bacillus lysate. And the clinical trials so far are showing hair regrowth. I don't think it's crazy to think in 5 years it'll be common to be able to get your hair back just by spraying something on. The science is there. What we are doing in my lab is we can grow skin and hair artificially in the dish from stem cells, and we can age that skin forwards and then reverse the age. And we're looking for ways to do that with natural ways to do that, so that we can put it into a cream that you could put on the hair and not just make your hair look better, but actually make your whole skin on your head literally be younger than it used to be. And that's what I want to do, is to make the body not just look younger, but literally be younger.
So, a question comes up from there, that if we reboot our body to, let's say, 21 or 16, does our mind reboot to 16 or 21 as well? I mean, am I going to have the same sort of intelligence, creative urges as a 21-year-old or a 16-year-old?
Well, Serena says sometimes that I get too young, but there's a happy intermediate.
What do you do when you get too young? Do you get frisky? Do you want to go dancing? What do you do?
You know what young men are like. They're a little bit, a little bit immature. No, don't give Serena the mic. I tend to be a little bit over-enthusiastic, let's say, about things, and I've learned to calm my decision-making and be less reactive. In all seriousness, what we're doing now in my lab at Harvard is, so what we do is, to reverse aging, is we turn on 3 genes that are normally only turned on in very young embryos. So when we're young, when we're just born or before, we are very young. And we stay young because there are 3 genes that are turned on. They're called O, S, and K for short. And when we turn on these 3 genes in the adult tissue, in human adult tissue or in a mouse, those 3 genes make the body younger again. This is the reset of the software. And we can do that not just with the eyes and cure blindness, which we did a couple of years ago. We recently published in January that we could rejuvenate a whole mouse and see aspects of aging reversed. And so that's where we're going, is to truly do a full age reset. Now what we're doing is asking, what happens if you reset the age of the old brain? And we can grow human brain in the lab. If you looked on my Instagram account, you can see little pictures of human brains that we grow. We can make them old, make them old in about a month, make them 70 years old in a month, and then we can reverse that. We can give them Alzheimer's disease, see what happens, and if we reverse it. So here's the punchline. If we reverse the age of an old mouse's brain to make it much younger by 70%, it gets its ability to learn back again, and we're now just testing if it also remembers lost memories. We don't know the answer, but we hope to find out soon.
So we may have a situation where teenagers are world leaders and running the whole economy and every space. I don't know what kind of decisions they would make then. I mean, teenagers are great. Teenagers are great. But I don't know whether we want them to be running the world. We just have a minute left. I wanted to get a little bit into this philosophical and spiritual areas with anti-aging and age reversal. We are in India. We have an ancient concept of karma and God's will. And here you are creating a space where nobody needs to suffer, or at least the rich don't need to suffer, and they can choose their day to die. Are you playing God, doctor?
I don't think that I am. I think that the pursuit of health and wellness and happiness is a natural human endeavor, and it's a very noble cause. And I'm not on this earth to make people live forever. I believe my mission, and with Serena, our mission is to increase the advances, extend the advances that we made last century with medicine, but to make it even more effective so that with one treatment, we don't just treat cancer, we can treat all the other diseases that affect us by making us younger and fitter. I don't believe that's playing God any more than developing treatments for cancer and heart disease and dementia is playing God. And I think as humans, we've always wanted to live better. We've wanted to modify our environment, modify our bodies to be happier and healthier. What part of this room is natural? I don't think, even this I think is artificial. So we as humans, we adapt, we change our environment, and this is the next step in human evolution. And I think it's the right step because we all have a right to decide how healthy we are. We can't choose when we were born, but I hope that one day we'll have a choice when we die.
What age would you like to, well, it's a strange question to ask, but what age would you like to die?
I think the answer would be not tomorrow, and that will always be the case. If you're healthy and happy and have friends, you'll never want to die. I know this as a human a trait. And so really the answer is as long as possible, but I'd be happy with another 40 years to do more good work.
So that would be like 100.
100, I hope more. What's happening, we talk about AI at this symposium, the rate of change in this field is going up dramatically, and so the advances that we can make now with the assistance of AI is dramatic. And in our lifetimes, we are truly going to see the ability for our doctors to give us medicines that reverse our age, and we can do that multiple times. And so it's an extremely exciting time to be alive and stay alive.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So in conclusion, I think basically we need to trick our body into thinking we're almost dying so that we can live longer. And all those people who give me trouble for causing them stress, hey, I'm helping you live longer. And I hope that after this chat about skipping meals, obviously I'm giving stress to a lot of people here. You can hear the claps, right? After this chat, I hope that you're going to make different choices at lunch, maybe even skip lunch. The doctor's going to be available at lunch. He's definitely not eating any lunch, so you can bomb him with some of your questions. I'm sure some of you have those. And thank you very much, Doctor, for being here and helping us through this process. And here's to all of you choosing your own day to die. Thank you.